Hey everyone, it's Sean. Today I want to talk a little bit about RC drift suspension and the important things to consider when you're setting up your new car or if you're upgrading a car you've already got. One of the first things to remember is that it's all about tuning. So a better set of shocks doesn't actually mean you're going to get better results if you don't put the time into trying to dial in the feel of them and how they drive. The one thing a better set of shocks will give you is more precision in your adjustability and also the tolerances and how everything's made. When looking at these two cars, they are both running Yokomo shocks, but these are from the RD 1.0 kit, and it's with their lower end shock lines, kind of similar to what you would get on a ready to run. And next to it over here are the Yokomo big bore shocks, which are upgraded with a few different things inside of them to just kind of dial them in a little bit more and help the seal and the feel of them. Let's look at the difference between these. On the left, you have a Rhino Racing Shark with, like I said, the Yokomo stock shocks that come from all their lower end kits. And from here, it looks fine, but here's where you start getting your issues. See that bounce you get there? If I let off here, it actually throws itself and does another little bounce. If we go next to it, with these shocks, upgraded Yokomo big bores, it's much more tight, it's much more smooth. The resistance after the rebound of it comes up and stops. It doesn't bounce itself again the way these do. I'll get some slow-mo clips and try to throw them in as well. And also on the rear end, it's much more stable. So if I drop and let off, it does have like a little spring up to it. But if we look at the shocks next to it, over here, you can almost get this thing to bounce like a lowrider. On this one, it's much more smooth and precise feeling. When you buy a better pair of shocks and start upgrading the ones you are currently running, you'll see that these are all aluminum, whereas the other ones are plastic. I also have some upgraded guides in the bottom of the shock shaft. You can see the white guide there is an upgraded guide. There's O-rings that are upgraded in there, and also the bladder on the top of this is also a different compound than what came stock with it. It's extremely smooth. If we look at this one, you'll see that it is plastic, which takes away some of that precision adjustment you can do. These also feel, they have like a weird kind of just soft feel. They don't feel great. They kind of grind a little bit. So those are the main differences between the shocks. The way you set your shocks up depends on the way you drive and where you drive. It's definitely a trial and error. You want to kind of find what feels right, and also what kind of matches the area you're in. For instance, I'm in Southern California. My local track is Super G, and there's a lot of competition driving there. So the way that stuff's set up there is a lot different than somebody who might be driving in their backyard who's trying to get some cool video or just get some cool looking driving of it kind of leaning and having the body roll that, you know, a real car might have. So there's a lot of different ways to set that up. It just kind of depends on where you're at. Ask the people around you too. If there's a bunch of people that you get to drive with, you're lucky, and ask them. They'll help you out and it'll give you guys something to chat about and kind of work on. Let's talk a little bit about the springs that I'm running. On my current build that I run, and I'm going to keep changing this car to be more like, because this is starting to feel really good. And this is more of a test, and we're just getting that one set up for the channel. But on my car, I'm running, like I said, the Yokomo big bore shocks. I have overdose springs, or dual rate springs, with a guide in between them. And I'm running 100 CST oil, front and rear. In the front, I am running Yokomo green springs, and the pistons are all stock pistons from the Yokomo big bore kit. So everything that came with this is pretty much what's in this car right now. Now I did add a couple other things, like I said, to help. One of them is going to be these blue O-rings. The main reason is that the ones that come in the package with the Yokomo set of springs are often dried out. These clear ones are really dried out usually, so they don't create a good seal, so you may want to consider those O-rings. The other thing is the top diaphragm. Like I said, also the ones that come in the package are often dried out. Those would be a good upgrade to have for these. And the last thing are those white guide rods, the guide sleeves that I showed you from TN Racing, TN307 for the YD2. Those help take out the slop in the actual play that kind of comes stock with these shocks. So that's what's in my setup. That's what a lot of the competition stuff right now on the Japanese P tile around this area, that's what a lot of guys are running. This setup is pretty much copy and pasted from some of the comp guys at Super G, and it seems to be working really good. But like I said, you don't need to spend a ton of money on shocks. If you wanted to, you could take the stock shocks you have, try some different O-rings for one, try some different guides. Even changing your shock oil would slow these down. If I were to put 100 or maybe 150 CST in this, it could slow them down and make them less bouncy. What that bounciness does when you're driving on the front and back is it kind of unsettles the car. So if you go and you hit the brake, hit the throttle, hit the brake, you'll throw it forward, throw it off, and that takes away from the consistent traction you have on the rear end. So that's why suspension is so important. You want to have it dialed in, that way you have the traction is the same the whole time. You know what your car's going to do when you go into a turn, when you come out of a turn. If it starts getting weird, you'll know how to fix it rather than it just doing something even crazier than what you expected. So take your time, dial in your shocks, ask people what they think. They will definitely help you. Everybody's super helpful in this hobby. If you have questions for me, let me know. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.